Joining us now is Dan Mitchell of the Cato Institute, Adam Lashinsky of Fortune Magazine, and Recon Capital Partners CIO Kevin Kelly. Good to see you all. Let me go first to Dan. This is quite a message that you can do both Obamacare, repeal and reform and replace, and have a tax cut by August. What needs to be done to get that done inside the Beltway, Dan?
The number one thing they have to figure out is this controversial border adjustment provision in the House bill. That's not in Trump's plan. A lot of senators don't like it. A lot of the American business community doesn't like it. But it's very attractive to House Republicans because it's $1 trillion of revenue that they're using to finance a lot of the good tax cuts in their plan. So somehow you have to make all these pieces fit together, and they're not there yet.
But, Dan, just with you for a second, don't they believe that there is something to a very active situation happening? Once tax cuts come down, you may have a revival of the economy like we haven't seen in years. Therefore, it would generate more revenue.
There's no question if we could get the corporate rate down to 15 or 20% and some of these other provisions like expensing, it would be great for the economy's long-run efficiency and the competitiveness of the U.S. economy. It has to happen if Trump wants to be successful, I think.
But not everybody's a believer, Kevin. And, of course, yesterday we had Jamie Dimon pouring water on a parade by saying that we're not going to get tax cuts till 2018. Who do you believe, Mnuchin or Jamie Dimon?
Yeah, I mean, I had a hard time early. I've been on the show before having a hard time earlier because they're making it more complicated. Just get taxes done. Just make it clean and simple. Don't include this border adjustment tax. You can address that later. All you need to do is take the corporate tax rate down to 20%, lower the personal income tax rate, and then if you want to get more complicated, do that later. But you've promised
Kevin, I love you, but you're not answering. Who do you believe? Jamie Dimon, who says it can't be done?
I believe Jamie Dimon because it's done in Washington quickly or fast enough, and you've got too many lawyers and lobbyists with their hands out there. So I believe Jamie
Dimon. Adam Lashinsky, who are you voting for?
Well, I do as well. There's a substantive issue here regarding this isn't just not what's right for the economy or what economists think. This is a political issue. And it's not just Jamie Dimon who's going to say this isn't going to happen as quickly as you might think. Okay. It's a lot of House Republicans who are going to say this isn't going to happen as quickly as you think. And that's because the administration isn't going after entitlements at the same time.
Okay. Well,
and there are a lot of people who are going to say
believes the president and the Treasury Secretary for this day. Anyway, we'll have to wait and see. We're going to come back in just a minute. Melissa.
Art of the deal, baby. Yeah. Riding a wave of enthusiasm and praise after the most tweeted presidential address to Congress ever. President Trump is back to business today. And so is Blake Berman, who's live at the White House with the latest. Blake, what's the vibe like there today?
Well, now it's trying to get, Melissa, all those big ticket items that the president had talked about, repealing and replacing Obamacare, tax reform, $1 trillion in infrastructure spending, military spending, spending on veterans. There's a budget that they have to roll out here. All of that, and now trying to actually get it enacted. So to that end, leadership, Republican leadership here at the White House on this day, meeting with the president and his top advisors. Among those here at the White House, the House Speaker Paul Ryan, the Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell, Kevin McCarthy, the #2 in the House, just to name a few, as they now sit down and try to enact not only their agenda, but the president's agenda. By the way, the White House Press Secretary Sean Spicer was asked earlier today here at the White House if they feel what just happened on Wall Street that you guys were talking about was a direct link or not to the president's speech last night. Spicer didn't want to get mixed up in the market movements, as he said, or whether or not there was a direct link from last night to today. However, he did say most certainly they feel that what the president's been doing here over the last 2 months is indeed directly related to the run-up in the market. And here is what he said, quoting the press secretary. He says, quote, "There's a renewed sense of confidence in the country, in the agenda, in the desire to hire and grow and expand in the United States. And I can only see that as a positive sign, not just for the market, but for our entire economy." Melissa, back to you.
Blake, thank you so much. Thanks. Treasury Secretary Steve Mnuchin also telling Fox Business that the new $1 trillion infrastructure plan is going to create a new America.
This year for the $1 trillion.
Absolutely.
And where will that money come from?
Well, the $1 trillion, it'll be a combination of a public and private partnership. It doesn't necessarily mean that it'll be $1 trillion off of the government's balance sheet. But the president is determined that we are going to do an infrastructure plan that's going to be very significant, one of the most significant we've ever seen, and we're going to rebuild America.
Kevin, I know investors, that's music to their ears. I mean, there are people who are out there would love the idea of investing in a public-private partnership in order to do this infrastructure. Do you think it can work?
I think it can work, and because you've seen who he's surrounding himself by, he's got some of the smartest minds that can figure out how it will work, and you've even had Wilbur Ross talk about this and how it could be revenue neutral or even generate revenue for the country. So I think investors are excited about that. I think they're more excited about the president getting the confidence of the Congress and through the speech last night. So I think the rally had to do with now he's able to show his leadership skills, are willing to follow him, and businesses are excited about that, not only the infrastructure plan, but the deregulation that he talked about within each agency.
Yeah. Dan, this approach to infrastructure where you get private money involved has been successful in other places. I mean, there are roads in Virginia like this, toll roads. How hard is it?
Well, just look at Europe. Don't just look at a few state roads in America. In Europe, for instance, most airports are privately owned and maintained, and they're so much better than American airports. So the real key is to try to get the government out of the way so the private sector can come in with a lot more efficiency than if you just have the federal government build bridges to nowhere or something like that.
Adam, amen. What do you think about that?
Well, there obviously will be a lot of support for this in the markets, and I think there'll be bipartisan support in Congress for doing something like this. But I'll return to something I said earlier. Someone's going to have to pay for all of it, including the government part. And there are elements in the Republican Party in particular who are going to be hopping mad if this means, you know, raising government spending without the taxes to support it.
Dan?
I think that's a key thing. If this is just a Obama-style pork barrel stimulus when the dust settles, you're going to have a lot of angry Republicans who think that they're supposed to be in favor of small government and the Constitution.
All great points.